The problem, as I said before, is a feeling of powerlessness. We can agree about the prejudices of language. We can agree about the deconstructive principles of language. We can agree that we are trapped in these cycles of oppression. The problem I have is that so many people I talk to don't know that there's anything they can do about it.
You're right. But it's also the hegemony that Gramsci talked about. I think they've become so entrenched within the system of language taught by the bourgeoisie that they've even learned arguments to oppress themselves. They've been taught to shrug off their own powerlessness.
I see that in the sense of apathy in the country. The world's greatest democracy has one of the world's lowest voter turnouts. We don't feel we can do anything, that we can even understand anything. Too many of my students believe, bizarrely, that ignorance is bliss.
Can I get you gentlemen anything?
The seafood special sounds good. Is it?
Sure. I guess. I haven't had time to try it.
Excuse me. Let me ask, is the salmon wild caught or farm raised? Where was it packaged and when? Is it certified fair trade?
Gosh, I don't know. It's salmon. Someone said it's good. Eat it if you want it.
Wait. Why don't you know?
Look. I'm busy. Ain't nobody got time for that. I've got all these tables to take care of. I have another job during the day. I have 2 kids and 1,000 bills to pay. Are you ready to order or not?
In a moment or two. Can you come back? UCSED Rick, this is what I'm talking about. She is a victim of the first of 4 ways we oppress ourselves, how we excuse ourselves into powerlessness. The first of 4 types of false consciousness.
You were talking about James Berlin's ideas, aren't you? He talked about how even schools reinforce hegemony by teaching a language of disempowerment. Which one is she guilty of?
Listen to her. She doesn't have time to learn, to think, to reflect, to understand. We call this acceleration. Popular entertainment and the sheer speed of our techno-culture encourages us to stop thinking. We say we don't have time to learn. We don't have time to read. We don't have time to reflect upon what it all means. In the meantime, we need our internet speeds faster, our Twitter feeds to be faster, our food to be faster, and our memes and viral video trends to be newer.
She's the kind of thinker who will believe there's a war on Christmas, that Johnny Depp is dead, and that Justin Bieber matters, all because of their Facebook feed. Act now. Limited offer. This eBay item has only seconds left before bidding ends. All of this has taught us that time is a resource we simply do not have, so thinking is something we cannot do.
Do you think our waitress is patriotic?
As much as she understands what patriotism is, she probably labels herself that way. Let's find out.
We can find out easily enough. Watch this. So, as I was saying, if even Afghanistan wants to make a nuclear bomb, I say let them. Every nation should have the right to defend itself. What do you think?
What? About Afghanistan? You're going to give nukes to terrorists?
The government of Afghanistan isn't terrorist, though.
You can't trust them. None of them. That's why we need to bomb the hell out of anyone who defies us. Now, did you decide you wanted the salmon or not?
Wow. Okay, what did you find out about it? Is it fair trade?
You need me to find out now? Okay, I'll be back.
She's also guilty of the second form of false consciousness, mystification, isn't she? For her, the world is neatly divided into 2 pieces. It's us and them, good guy or terrorist, liberal or conservative, whites or blacks.
It looks that way. It shouldn't surprise us. Our affinity for the false binary opposition, for categorizing the world, naturally oversimplifies it. It is such yes or no, A or B thinking that creates ethnocentrism, nationalism, racism, and all other bigotry. It creates the other, which therefore does violence upon the other.
This mystification is an extreme categorization. High school students naturally believe that teachers are agents of a system designed to torture their spirits. Or that there are good teachers and bad teachers, or that people can be trusted or they cannot be. Notice how this also saves her from the burden of thinking deeply. She says she has no time to, but she also has her answers pretty much decided, because this framework of language has taught her good and evil, right and wrong, just and unjust. No need to consider the complexity of reality, even the dialogic possibilities of Bakhtin.
This is why I admire Bakhtin and despise Stanley Fish, that fascist who fakes liberalism. I never doubted why people considered Bakhtin a Marxist. His dialogics flies in direct opposition to the mystification that power elites want to continue. Every national leader needs her people to believe that its nation is superior. Why should it surprise us when it works?
But this is what I was talking about with my own students. This despair about power results in a shrug of the shoulders and apathy. They tell me that there is nothing that can be done, that this has always been the way of things and always will be.
Let me ask you something. If you wanted to stay in power, if you wanted to truly create a system to keep the world working for your own profit, would you teach people your values, or would you teach them that changing those values was not possible?
Good point. This is reification, isn't it? The third problem.
The chef is on break. I cannot ask him about the fish. Do you want it?
Wait. Why can't you ask him?
I'm not supposed to disturb him when he's on break.
But we need to know before we order.
I can't do anything about it.
What if we paid you to find out?
How much?
$20.
Okay. Let me check.
You were right. Her idea of can't do anything changed pretty fast when you offered her money.
Yup. Reification is the idea that change is simply not possible. The hegemonic system of corruption and oppression is a game to be played, even though it is designed to keep us powerless. Her first appeal is that she is powerless, that she is not responsible, that nothing is her fault, and that she cannot do anything. However, since she understands that there is a power system out there, whether it is social or economic, she has learned the game of consumerism. Get deals. Get money. Work the system. Do nothing unless it is for profit.
And you are saying that our society has taught her that change is impossible. We've taught students that they can do nothing to affect a system, that history just repeats itself.
Listen. A study was done a few years ago at a suburban high school in Michigan, a town called Royal Oak. One of its key findings was that the longer they stayed in school, the less and less change they felt they would ever be able to make. That same year, their local student council tried to run a canned food drive and discovered that students were less willing to bring in food if they did not earn extra credit points. Sure, these students learned math and science and read poetry. But the larger lessons are much more powerful. They learned lessons quite the opposite of what we might imagine from the most free and democratic nation in the world.
What happens is that our larger purposes are lost. We become less humane, less compassionate, less reflective, less complex, because we only know these game rules. And we end up actively participating in our disempowerment.
Exactly. When our waitress accepted the bribe, she not only got a little money, she also reinforced for herself, reified for herself, that this would be the acceptable and only motivation for learning something, or for choosing to act. Wait. Here she comes.
So what did you find out?
The chef says, screw you. If you don't want to eat his fish, don't order it.
Wow. That's a pretty rotten thing to say to a customer, isn't it?
I don't know. I mean, what are you going to do? That's just how people are. No one really cares. I just look out for myself. Do you want the fish?
I've decided not to eat tonight.
Yes, me too.
Really? I mean really. So without a bill to give you, I won't get a tip. Typical. I hate customers.
And there went the fourth way of false consciousness, pre-scientific thinking. It's the belief that humans are always the same everywhere and through history. It's the idea that human nature is socially destructive and uncaring. Accepting this ideology gives us all the reason to stop caring ourselves, to withdraw and accept that change is impossible.
We even invented a name for it, social Darwinism. We all know that the phrase is entirely invented and is in no way supported by any of Darwin's ideas, but we accept it anyway. And so it's every man or woman for herself. We can rely on no one else, so we become more self-centered, less cooperative, more isolated, more apathetic.
This is what I see in my students. Some believe that virtue exists, that there is good, but they don't dare suggest that we can all share a common idea of it. They become relativists, saying that everyone is entitled to their own opinions, that everyone has their own ideas about love and charity and community and morality. As long as they accept this oversimplified assumption, they accept also that there is no way to have common action, no way to unify, no reason to do anything. We just sign ignorant liberalism and allow the world to continue in its stewed corruption.
Don't say stew. I'm hungry now. It's kind of funny how we're attacking liberals, though, especially when we are further left than most of them.
Now don't go oversimplifying the labels, Terry. There are lots of ways to be left of center, and clearly some are more thoughtful than others. I think we've done a good job of finding Berlin's ideas in our quick discussion, but that doesn't tell me what I can tell my students when they say there's nothing to be done.
Sure it does. Look, all of these forms of false thinking, acceleration, mystification, reification, and pre-scientific thinking, all work together to teach us that change is impossible and therefore we should not bother to think about it. But we have to let them know that these arguments themselves are part of the hegemony we warned them about. They are false. They are prejudices, packaged for them and consumed by them. We cower and react, we entrench and exclude, and we sulk and comply. But unless we seek a new philosophy, I'm partial to Neo-Marxism myself, we will never accept the risk to feel truly fulfilled. You tell me, then, what must we do?
I get it. We must think. We must write. We must speak. We must act. And these, says Bakhtin, are all the same thing.
Excellent. I have some food back at my place. Let's go make our own dinner. Oh, and leave that working girl a tip, will you?